Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. We have our special guest, Sarah Andrews today, founder and principal consultant at Cupola CX. Sarah, thank you so much for joining. We have a few different topics that we're going to chat through today, but to start, I'd love to give you a chance to talk a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your company.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Brian. Good to see you again. Hi, everybody. My name's Sarah Andrews. I have been in customer experience for the last 20 years. A bulk of that was spent traveling the country to hospitals and helping them improve patient experience. And I love that work so much, I decided to hang a shingle and do this work for myself. I'm based in the Midwest here in the US and really loving helping companies take better care of their customers.
So, so right off the jump, you're talking about doing work in hospitals, which maybe people don't necessarily equate to customers. Maybe in this in this day and age of the way healthcare is run, perhaps so more than others. But I'm really curious how you define customers, because as we were thinking about topics for this session, that was the first thing that jumped to mind for you. It's like I really want to talk about customers. I want to think about how I define them, how others define them. So maybe you can help us with that. Like how do you, as you're going through your work, define customers?
I really boil it down pretty simple, Brian. I think about people serving people. And so whether that is the leader of a company serving their employees because they are customers as well of that company, and then as you start to kind of perpetuate that out, so how are we taking better care of our customers? And many of the clients I work with, they use different terms for their customers: guests, participants, fans, residents. And so really, how are we being in service to those people who are coming to us? I also think about how we are perceived in our broader community. So it's not just people who are our customers today, but how is that one customer telling their friends or family about the experience that they had, and kind of the ripple effect that that can have in the broader community in which you serve.
Okay, so you mentioned guests and residents and fans and customers and clients as well. What would you say? Is there a common thread between that? I'm guessing it might be people based on what you're describing here, but how else do you think about the common thread between these different types of buyers and customers?
Absolutely. I really like the work by Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. And in his book, he tells us that 95% of all of our decisions are made based on emotions. And so I, as a type A logical person, that at first made me really mad because I'm like, I think things through and I make a list. But really, at the end of the day, how many times do we say, like, I just felt it in my gut and I made a choice based on my gut? And so that kind of led me to the work through Riders and Elephants. It's a group in Australia. They have many different tools that you can use as a CX practitioner or as a leader of an organization. And one in particular that I really love is it's an emotional culture deck. And so the work that I typically get clients started off with is we hand out these cards, and there's 60 emotions written on just picture playing cards, but instead of, the Jack of Hearts, it is trusted, understood, cared for. And so we bring a workshop team together, so cross-functional group throughout the organization, and I ask them, how do you want your customers to feel after they interact with you? And so I ask them to pick the top 5 emotions, and then I ask them to do the top 5 emotions they don't want their customers to feel. Disconnected, confused, angry, upset. So we use those 2 lists and we start to say, okay, how are we doing today? How are we making sure that our customers feel trusted, that they feel understood, that they feel connected to us? And based on that work, we're able to kind of work backwards to define some of the guiding behaviors or service standards that we as an organization should be making sure are palpable to our customers, our participants, our guests every single day.
How, when you're doing this work, do you usually find that your clients there's a big delta between what they want to have their customers experiencing and what the current state is?
It depends on how vulnerable that group wants to be. Depending on who's in the room. Sometimes if there's a leader in the room, they're writing down like, oh yes, we're always hitting it on these things. But prior to the workshop, I've already reviewed their customer data, looked at some of their reviews, and so I kind of know where customers are hitting right now, and so I can kind of be that probe a little bit and pushing them a little bit further to say, are we really delivering that experience to our customers today? Here's a review that I just read, or here's some of the data from your last quarter. And so we can really kind of be honest in that room and decide, yes, are we fulfilling our brand promise to our customers or not? And I think that's work that we know from Brene Brown. It's not just the values that you have pasted on the walls of your building, but how have you operationalized it for your team? And that work can kind of be the thread between the placard and the elevator to actually how we deliver every day to our customers.
There's always the description of the culture being on either the wall or how you show up every day, and particularly how you show up for customers. So me as well, my work on the
Yep.
customer success side of things, I really love thinking about the customer experience. I love thinking about the customer journey and how they start, and especially these days where being a buyer and being a customer has never been easier from the standpoint of you can do your own research and you can get so far down the buying journey on your own before you even contact the vendor or the supplier or whatever who you're going to buy from. And I really like that how you take somebody's from and experience to that point, then they become a buyer and they experience the reality of what that looks like. And then their follow-on is, did they enjoy it? Did they meet expectations or not? So when you're doing your work, do you also look at that early stages of the customer journey as well, even before they become a buying customer?
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned it, Brian. That research phase can be so overwhelming for our potential customers because they don't want to make the wrong decision. I mean, that is, wasted time, wasted money. And so really getting our teams to see the full picture outside in, as, Harley Manning and Carrie Bodine tell us, really how are we putting ourselves thinking about the outside perspective of these customers, not the internal processes that we have to go through in order to, put ourselves out in this site so people can find us, but really what are all the different steps that they had to journey through before they even got to us. And when you have that customer, kind of pulling on some of those threads yourself during the onboarding process for CS is really important. Because they're carrying all that extra baggage that they had to go through to get to that point to sign that proposal. And so helping them, hey, how was that for you? Are there certain steps that really felt a lot of friction, or how could I make that better for you? And trying to kind of pull those apart so we're not just, hey, we got a happy customer and they signed on the dotted line. It's like, no, they had to go through 900 steps to get to that dotted line.
So can I ask you a couple tactical questions then in the
Sure.
work that you're doing? Do you guide your clients to ask specific questions? Are those usually done live in one-on-one settings, group settings? Are they done in surveys, all the above? How do you get to that actual feedback that you're trying to get from customers?
Sure. I know it may seem counterintuitive because 11 of my 20 years in this business was spent at a survey company, but I'm a little burned out on surveys, just like any other customer out there. If we really take a step back and look as companies, our customers are already telling us what we need to know. If we can look at web behavior, if we can look at call logs, we can look at the reviews that they're already putting out on social media, on Google, we have all the data at our fingertips that we need to know what patterns and trends customers are telling us. Where's the friction? Where are the delights in their journey with us? And so I am working with customers to make sure that we're not just burdening, because that's really what a survey is. If we're really being honest, the survey is not for the customer. It's for us as the company. And so we don't need to be burdening our customers with more homework to do by filling out a survey. And so by looking at the data that we have already, we can use that in a more targeted way. So something that's been more popular with my clients recently is focus groups. So looking at like top 25 customers, breaking them into groups of 5, and then having me go in just one-on-one with those customers without the company present, so I can really dig down a little bit deeper and understand the true mechanics of their relationship. What's going well? Where do they feel like they haven't been heard? Where do they keep running into issues with the customer? And then using that data from those one-on-ones to really kind of build a partnership plan for that customer and that company going forward. Hey, here's what we heard. Here's what we're going to be doing over the next quarter to address some of those things we heard in the focus groups.
Very cool, very cool. And how receptive do you find the customers to be at that point? Are they a little nervous to answer questions? They feel like Big Brother's listening? How do those usually go?
I try, in true Midwestern charm, try to kind of disarm people a little bit, let them know that we can only improve if we know the problem. So it doesn't do any good to the customer or to the client I'm working with if we just sit there and, speak in high level terms and, oh no, everything's fine. It's like we really need to know so we can fix what's causing the problem. And so I do that in a number of different ways, kind of warming the group up a little bit so we're not just hitting it really hard. And I also remind them that all the data that I'm collecting is protected. So I'm not saying, hey, Jim said this about Allison. I am kind of dumping all that data into a pot, making sure that it's been de-identified, that we're not, targeting one particular team member, but really focusing instead on the pattern, the trend.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, cool. So that sounds like a wonderful approach. So for anybody who is interested in talking to you more about these tactics, these strategies, your philosophy, connecting with you about Midwestern stuff as well.
It's been hard to be a sports fan in the Midwest right now. I'm a Bears fan, a Cubs fan, and a Boilermaker. So it is sad times in this house.
Well, maybe some people can commiserate with you when they connect. But how would best people get in touch with you?
Sure, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can also just go to cupolacx.com.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, I look forward to staying in touch with you. We have wonderful conversations about customers. I always appreciate your perspective on them, and you usually are able to bring a unique taste to this, which I really appreciate. So, thank you for joining today. Thanks to everybody who watches this session as well. Hope you learned some things from Sarah, and we'll catch you all next time.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Thanks, Sarah.